The most important success lesson you must teach your kids. Imagine this. You work your whole life, save every little bit to build a strong future for your family. But in just 3 generations, everything disappears like foam on the sea. That's the harsh truth many families are facing right now. Where are you in that journey? Maybe you're struggling with monthly bills, worrying if your small savings are enough for your kids' education, or afraid that what you leave behind might be wasted overnight. In this digital age, with online shopping temptations and risky investments, everything becomes more urgent than ever. One small mistake can drag the whole family into debt, separation, and regret. The pain gets deeper when you look at your kids. They grow up protected and comfortable, not knowing the value of sweat and hard work. And one day, they'll face a tough world with no armor. How would you feel watching your child, instead of flying high, fall into debt, long-term unemployment, and family fights over money? But you don't have to accept that fate. In this video, we'll explore real strategies to break that cycle. You'll not only protect your legacy, but also learn clear steps to help your children become independent, strong, and even grow the family wealth instead of losing it. Now, let's uncover the first secret: why money that took a lifetime to earn can disappear in just 3 generations. Part 1. The wealth cycle across generations. Why can a lifetime of savings disappear in just 3 generations? In the late 19th century, one family ruled over America's wealth like royalty: the Vanderbilt family. Cornelius Vanderbilt started with a small cargo boat and built a massive railroad and shipping empire worth $100 million, equal to about $3 billion today. That was more than the entire U.S. Treasury at the time. His son, William, did even better, doubling the fortune to $200 million and building grand mansions that looked like castles from a fairy tale. But one day, everything changed. By the 3rd generation, luxury parties, giant estates like the Biltmore, and reckless spending slowly destroyed it all. Within just a few decades, the richest family in the world had lost everything. By 1973, none of the 120 descendants were millionaires anymore. The empire collapsed, not because of war or disaster, but because of one silent rule: the wealth cycle through generations. And this doesn't just happen in America, it happens everywhere, in families around us, repeating every single day. So why do those at the top lose it all so easily? There's an old saying: from rags to riches and back to rags in 3 generations. Research from the Williams Group found that this pattern is no accident. 70% of wealthy families lose their money by the 2nd generation, and 90% by the 3rd. Why? Because hard times create strong people, good times create weak people, and weak people bring hard times again. It's the same with my uncle's family. They had a nice house and a decent amount of savings, but their kids never learned how to manage money. His son invested all the family's savings into a shady project, and within 1 year, it was all gone. The family went through serious financial trouble, even though they once had solid assets. Our brains adapt fast. When life gets easy, we slip into energy-saving mode. The biggest mistake parents make is thinking that leaving money or property guarantees their kids' happiness. But the truth is that comfort can become a trap. If your kids grow up never learning the value of money or the lessons of struggle, they'll lose it all, just like the Vanderbilt heirs did. That's why we need to recognize the wealth cycle early and break it. It's not money, but the values you teach: strength, grit, and understanding, that help your kids stand strong against any challenge. Here's a small challenge for you. Today, spend 5 minutes thinking about your family's story. What tough times shaped your grandparents, your parents, or even you? That's the first step to understanding your own wealth cycle. Money can be passed down. Family stories can be passed down, but skills can't. They must be learned. That's why we need to build a clear path to teach our children how to grow wealth from hardship. In the next part, we'll explore exactly how to do that, how to rise from struggle and build a lasting legacy. Part 2. From poverty to wealth. Every family starts with struggle. Maybe our grandparents worked all day just to have dinner on the table. But in those hard times, they learned things money can't buy: patience, discipline, and the drive to move forward. When those values fade away, wealth slowly disappears too. But everything can start again if one generation dares to learn from the beginning, to face challenges, and rebuild with knowledge. That's why to keep wealth, we must first learn how to build it again from nothing. And no one shows this better than Oprah Winfrey, a woman who didn't just escape poverty, but learned how to grow and stay successful. Back in Mississippi, the Oprah Winfrey we know today, the talk show host, producer, actress, billionaire, and philanthropist, grew up in poverty. She wore dresses made from potato sacks and went to school under people's judgmental looks. But instead of accepting her fate, she turned to books, practiced communication skills, and step-by-step built a media empire worth $2.5 billion. Her story proves that poverty is not destiny. Knowledge and skill are the bridge across the gap. A Harvard study found that people who spend 10,000 hours mastering a skill earn 7 times more than those who only learn the basics. And Oprah isn't the only one. Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, also started with almost nothing. She taught herself design and marketing, then built a billion-dollar brand with her own 2 hands. What's interesting is, even though they came from different beginnings, they shared one thing. They didn't wait for anyone to save them. They relied on themselves. So what can you do to start? Start small. Pick one skill that has real demand, writing, design, coding, or sales, and commit just 20 minutes a day. After 1 week, you'll notice a difference. After 1 year, you could be on a completely new path. Not every skill will bring success right away. According to Forbes, 85% of startup failures happen because founders lack core knowledge or skills. The road from poor to wealthy isn't easy, but once you start walking, opportunities will start finding you. Making money is hard, keeping it is harder. But the hardest part is keeping the spirit that created it. Because money can be passed down, but values and resilience must be passed through the way you live. And that's what decides whether a family stays rich for one lifetime or becomes prosperous for generations. Part 3. Protecting wealth and protecting people. Money can be passed down, but strength cannot. Many wealthy families have learned this lesson, often when it's already too late. History is full of stories about fortunes built and lost over and over again. A study in America found that 70% of families lose all their wealth after 2 generations. And by the 3rd generation, that number rises to 90%. It's a brutal pattern people call from shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. The first builds, the second preserves, the third destroys. The Vanderbilt family is a classic example. Cornelius Vanderbilt, once one of the richest men in history, worth about $185 billion in today's money, built a massive railroad empire. But only 2 generations later, it was all gone. When his descendants gathered in 1973, not one of the 120 heirs was still a millionaire. The money disappeared, but something far worse vanished too. The work ethic, the values, and the humility that built it in the first place. That's the tragedy of focusing only on keeping wealth, but not keeping people. Because if money is passed down without character, wisdom, and values, it's like planting seeds in dry soil. They might sprout for a while, but they won't last long. So how do we break that cycle? The answer isn't about how much you leave, but how you teach your kids to see the value of money. It's not what you leave for them, it's what you leave in them that shapes their future. The psychologist Abraham Maslow once said that people can only reach their highest level of growth, self-actualization, after being shaped by challenges and finding meaning beyond themselves. If your kids grow up too protected, never having to earn what they want, they'll never learn independence, hard work, or gratitude. A study from the Journal of Family Psychology found that children taught the value of work early in life are 4 times more likely to manage money well as adults. That doesn't mean you should make your kids do heavy labor. It means letting them experience real life, understand that money doesn't just appear, and that freedom comes with responsibility. In America, many parents encourage independence early. Warren Buffett once had his kids deliver newspapers, not because he needed the money, but because he wanted them to feel what it means to earn it. In many Asian families, though, parents focus so much on grades and achievements that they accidentally take away chances for kids to learn from real life. Both sides have value, but when taken to extremes, both can lead to failure. I once knew a family in California. The parents were very modern. They gave their son full financial freedom at age 20, hoping he'd learn responsibility. But because he never learned money management, within 1 year, he spent $50,000 on luxury items. The lesson here isn't don't give your kids money, it's teach them the value of money before you hand it to them. And teaching values doesn't have to be complicated. Here are 4 simple things any family can start today. no matter how much wealth you have, just with patience. First, tell family stories. Each week, tell your kids a story about how your parents or grandparents overcame hard times. Maybe it's about a grandmother who walked 10 kilometers to sell goods, or a father who worked as a carpenter to feed the family. These stories plant pride and respect for effort. Second, give small money tasks. Let your child manage $10 a week and plan how to spend it. When they make a mistake, don't scold. Ask, "What did you learn from that choice?" Those small mistakes become the foundation for maturity. Third, teach gratitude. Every night, instead of asking, "What did you do today?" ask, "What are you thankful for today?" That simple question helps them see life more positively instead of chasing achievements. Fourth, let them experience giving. Take your kids to volunteer at nursing homes, food banks, or community events. When they see the impact of helping others, they'll understand that money is just a tool. Real value lies in how you use it to create meaning. Bill Gates did this with his children. He didn't just teach them about money. He took them to humanitarian projects in Africa to show them how big the world really is. A Stanford University study found that kids involved in community work are twice as likely to grow confidence and empathy compared to those focused only on academics. So if you want to protect your legacy, don't just think about dividing your assets. Think about passing down strength. Teach your kids independence, discipline, and gratitude. Those are the kinds of assets that never lose value. Money can change hands, but values cannot. Gold and silver can be lost, but gratitude and resilience, when planted right, will grow for generations. Because in the end, keeping wealth helps your family survive, but keeping people helps your family last. But there's one truth many people don't want to face. You can't teach your kids what you haven't learned yourself. If keeping wealth comes from the mind, then keeping people begins from the heart, from how you live, the example you set, and how you rise from your own challenges. No one can teach their kids resilience if they've never stood up after a failure. No one can teach persistence if they always quit when things get hard. That's why to truly keep people, you must first transform yourself. Be someone disciplined, someone who sets limits, someone who creates challenges to stay strong. Money can be taught through words, but strength can only be taught through action. And that's where the cycle of weakness truly ends, when one generation doesn't just pass down wealth, but passes down the example of resilience. Final part, breaking the cycle of wealth through grit. There's one truth that most people don't want to face. You can't pass down something you haven't built yourself. If keeping the money takes logic, then keeping the person starts with grit, with how you live, how you lead by example, and how you push past your own limits. No one can teach their kids to be strong if they've never stood up after failing. No one can teach discipline if they've never stepped out of their comfort zone. So, if you want to change the next generation, you have to start by changing yourself. If you want your kids to have grit, you need to build your own grit. If you want them to have good habits, you must live with discipline. If you want them to dream big, you must dare to chase your own dreams. The foundation of all change is grit, what science calls grit. According to research by Angela Duckworth from the University of Pennsylvania, grit isn't talent. It's the mix of passion and perseverance for long-term goals. People with high grit can bounce back from failure 3 times better than those who only rely on intelligence. In other words, grit matters more than talent, more than background, and sometimes even more than luck. But here's the challenge. Our brain loves to save energy. It always looks for comfort, avoids pain, and stays away from risks. That's why we easily fall into procrastination, laziness, or making excuses. Only those who dare to create their own struggles truly grow stronger. I've been there too. There was a time I felt stuck, with no motivation to start anything new. Everything seemed to freeze, until I challenged myself. 21 days of waking up at 5 in the morning, no social media, no excuses. The first week was brutal. I struggled every single minute. But by day 10, something changed. My mind felt clearer, my body felt more alive, and I realized what I was building wasn't just a habit, it was character. When you train your grit, you're rewriting how your brain reacts to hardship. Once your brain gets used to discomfort, failure doesn't scare you anymore. You become someone who creates energy instead of waiting for the right moment. That's the difference between those who keep their wealth and those who lose it. Without grit, no matter how much you have, you'll eventually lose it. With grit, even if you start with nothing, you can rebuild everything again. So if you really want to break the cycle of weakness in your family, start with yourself. Create small challenges every day. Run for 15 minutes each morning. Read 10 pages before going to bed. Turn off your phone for 1 hour and talk with your kids. These small things are the roots of inner strength. And when you change, your kids will change too. Not because you tell them to, but because they see you do it. When you build grit, you change yourself. But the weak cycle truly ends only when your children absorb that grit and turn it into their own strength. Your real legacy isn't the money you leave behind. It's the spirit you plant in your children's hearts. A new generation that not only keeps the wealth, but also keeps the values. They won't just learn how to spend money, they'll learn how to create value, stay strong, and live with purpose. That's when you don't just change your own life, you change your whole family line. With the power of grit and love. Your legacy isn't in your bank account. It's in the strength you pass on to the next generation. Start today. Pick one value you want to teach your kids, independence, discipline, or gratitude, and write it down. And if you've already tried, share it in the comments. Your story might inspire hundreds of other families. Every week, I share real stories about money, grit, and personal growth. If this video means something to you, subscribe so you don't miss the journey of changing yourself and changing the next generation.